and good morning. It is Wednesday, the 14th of June, the year 2023. You are right on time for your weekly mid-morning pack show right here on MBCI TV and Karibu Sana. It's good to have you, and we are trusting you're well kept of our Lord. Thank you so much. It's also good to have my co-host here, Kagi. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Mangicho. How are you?
Good morning to you. I'm fine, and hoping that you're also having a great week.
I'm very well. How has been your week?
My week has been good, and we thank God for the mercies and His grace also.
Right. Just to say hi to you, dear viewer, wherever you are, and welcome to the mid-morning today. As usual, we are here to give you more light on various issues for the last 1 week. So don't go too far. Once again, my name is Paul Kagi. A big welcome.
Yes, and today we want to look at a very important topic, that is the International Day of the African Child. Now, this particular day, Kagi, will be it will be celebrated on Friday, that is 16th.
Yes.
So it's just today and tomorrow. Then we'll have 16th of this particular month. That will be on Friday. That is when we'll be marking the International Day of the African Child. And today we want to look at issues to do with this particular day. We'll focus on the Day of the African Child. What is it that, or what are some of the challenges that are affecting the African child? What are some maybe of the strides that we have made, maybe even as a nation, as a society, in terms of looking into the welfare of the African child? Now, in this particular case, maybe we will actually have to draw more closer to our home right here in Kenya and look at our children in general. What are some of the issues that are affecting them? What are some of the issues that maybe are bedeviling our children, ranging from health, ranging from security, ranging from education? Now, that is what we'll be discussing today, even as we look forward to the D-Day that is on Friday, where we'll be having the celebration, or where we'll be marking the actual day. We'll have a guest to also help us look at this particular issue. And of course, as usual, we want you to also participate, and we also want you to actually be in this particular discussion. That is why we have a question that we want to ask you, and you can also feel free to participate or to join us in this particular conversation. The question that we are putting to you today is, what are some of the issues that are affecting children in the society today? What are some of the issues that are affecting children in the society today? Now, we are talking about the Kenyan society, because Kenya is also in Africa. Now, you know the drill. You can begin now to give us your feedback. You can begin to give us your thoughts about this particular conversation. Our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, catch us live, and also on our YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. And of course, you can also join us via our short code platform, that is 23814, 23814. Drop a comment or two. And as we continue with this particular discussion, we'll be glad to sample some of your opinions on the same. But of course, Kagi, quite a number of issues, quite a number of quite a number of other aspects that have actually been taking place across this particular week in our country.
Yes, and as usual, we give you like a few minutes to be able to look at some issues which are of great public importance. Yeah. We are going to somehow give some short analysis, and I believe that by the end of the program, you have more information about various matters. And one of the issues that I have has really caught my attention this week, Mangicho, is the issue of academics.
Right.
There is a task force which was appointed by the Minister of Education to look at the reforms in the education sector. And one of the recommendations that is coming up clearly is on how to put the distinction between the institution of higher learning, that is universities, and other institutions which are tertiary institutions, regarding to the offering of degrees, diplomas, and certificates. And one of the proposals that have been mentioned is that the experts now want varsity or universities to drop certificate and diploma courses in our universities. An issue which has really brought a lot of opposition from the universities, and they are saying that they have set up some maybe TVET institution among the universities. But these experts are saying universities are supposed only to offer degrees, also saying that the diploma and the certificates are supposed to be offered by the TVET institutions, which are away from the universities. Okay. And it's something that is not coming up for the first time. Even last year, I remember it came up very clearly, and there was a directive from the Minister of Education last time, who directed that all universities should drop from offering certificate and diploma courses. But by the look of things, if you have observed by universities today, Mangicho,
right,
you'll see that these universities are offering a lot of courses in terms of diploma and certificate. And if this proposal is going to be implemented, it is going to affect our universities direct.
Okay.
Yeah, because the huge population are from this cadre of academics.
Yeah.
And therefore, it is not ratified, but as we continue, we believe this proposal is going to bring a lot of debate from the two quarters, from the tertiary and from the institution of higher learning, right? Yeah.
And what you're saying is actually very true, Kagi, because I think if you were to look at maybe the history and what maybe has been known to be happening is that, or actually what has been maybe the tradition until maybe recently, is that maybe when you go to university, most people would know that you're going there maybe to do a degree course, and maybe later on you do maybe masters and PhD. Now when it comes now to these other tertiary institutions, the information or what people know outside there is that now maybe there you can go and do a diploma course, maybe you can do a certificate course, and you also know maybe even there are those artisan courses. And I think now this is a bone of contention because people want now to find out maybe at what particular point did universities or were universities allowed to begin maybe to offer these courses that are below the degree level. That, and you know what you're actually saying, because I also read somewhere where now maybe people are now also questioning, or people are wondering now if universities can be allowed to offer diploma courses. Now, does it also mean that now these other tertiary institutions, would they be mandated to also offer degree courses?
It's a big question.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm feeling one of the reasons why there is this debate, maybe from the government side, you know, the government has been very particulate on empowering the TVET institutions. And one of the ways to be able to secure the TVET institutions is to provide a secure number of students who are leaving high school, who cannot be able to make it to university, to have institutions which they can feel comfortable with, for the government to be able to equip them, to facilitate them, and also to be able to think of how they are going to provide good trainers which are more inclined to skills as compared to universities which are more inclined to research.
Yes.
Right?
And one thing, Kagi, that I think has also maybe brought this particular issue into the limelight, because I know over the years we've had the commercialization of education in Kenya, and that is why in some of these universities, and people have actually even been questioning the authenticity maybe of some of the certificates or some of the degrees that are actually being produced or actually given from these particular universities. And people have been wondering, why is it that, because at some point people knew that for you maybe to get into a university, you must have qualified. But there are people who now think that, so long as maybe you have money, it doesn't really even matter the kind of grade that you got. So long as you have money, in a way or the other, you can still find yourself in the university. And that is why maybe some of these middle-level colleges or tertiary institutions, they feel that what is it that they have been mandated to do has now been taken by universities.
Yeah, and I think one more important issue regarding to this matter is that there is a great need for the Ministry of Education to have a serious crackdown to ensure all these institutions, whether universities or the tertiary institutions, they are offering quality education.
Right.
If they are offering TVET courses which are more skillful, they have enough materials and equipment to be able to provide to these people. For example, think of an institution which is offering fashion and design, and then they don't have any machine. And if they have any machine, tailoring machine or something, they are using the, how do I put it, the old machine. And today we are operating with more electronically improvised machines. Maybe they are offering courses like welding or maybe mechanical engineering. There must be a way these institutions have a garage to be able to provide skills which are needed.
Absolutely.
What am I saying? That there's need to provide a serious crackdown to ensure that these institutions have materials and equipment. Universities, you know, they are supposed to be centers of research. How far have we gone on this? There's need to put more pressure on our universities to become more research institutions to be able to provide some of the solutions that we need. For example, we are struggling with our economy in this country. We should be getting some guidance, some briefs from our universities, which are offering economics.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, before we move away from that matter, Mangicho, there is one sensitive matter which was appearing this week, that some teachers have refused to take up managerial positions in our institutions. People have refused to become principals of our institutions.
Yes.
You know, it's very interesting that a job of a principal is a high-level job.
People are declining
with good
those
salary.
roles. Yes.
People are declining.
Yes.
In fact, I was checking, and I saw that there are about 1,000 positions lying idle. Yeah.
They are not up for grabs.
Yes. I don't know why, but there were some reasons why these teachers are not for those jobs.
Yes.
One of them is delocalization. Yeah. You know, the fear of being moved from where you are.
Sure,
Maybe where you are more comfortable with your family. You have some issues that you are running around.
Right.
But when you become a principal, or maybe a head teacher, you are told to move from where you are, where you're more comfortable, to a very far place where you don't feel comfortable with.
Absolutely.
And that's one reason why they are declining to take this position. The other one,
Yeah.
it is being said most of the teachers who are maybe in acting capacity, or maybe the deputy principals, they don't have the required qualifications to become the managers of these institutions. And the other one, which is a major issue, especially in the recent past, there has been a serious challenge regarding to the funding of our tuition fee in our institutions. For example, I was checking on papers today, and one of the complaints they have is that they were given around 24 billion this week. Yeah, they're saying is a drop in an ocean to run the institutions. And therefore, you find that they were given money end of last year. They have not received money for this year until this week. And the stress of managing institutions without a coin, talking to suppliers, you know, convincing them to supply you with food, you don't have money, is becoming more stressful to them. It's not certain they are going to get money to run the institutions. The other one is being taken to a hardship area. Yeah, for example, if there's an indiscipline case, you can be taken to a hardship area. And also, there is a matter of, which I have just spoken about, the capitation challenges, which are really discouraging them.
Sure, and I think that is a story that maybe stakeholders will have to look into and maybe have some agreement, because just like you put it, it is very uncharacteristic in Kenya or in our country whereby you would want maybe to be given some of these managerial positions or some of these senior roles only maybe for you to decline. But I think if you are to look at some of those particular issues, or maybe at quite a number of those particular aspects that maybe some of these teachers have raised, I think they're quite legitimate, because if you look maybe at an issue of delocalization, most maybe would want maybe to decline that particular duty, because again, maybe there is somewhere you've settled maybe for a particular time, and now being asked now to move from that particular area and to go maybe to another particular area would actually, or maybe one would really find it to be quite difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
There is another matter that has been, not only for this week, it has been there for, I think, for the last 1 month, but it has not caught a lot of attention from not even Kenyans, but from public, Africa, which is being advocated by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya. The issue of dollar involvement in our local trades is a matter that the President himself, I have heard him twice talking about this matter. The first time he was very elaborate and eloquent on this matter when he was addressing a Pan-African Parliament in South Africa. And also, I think this week he has been in Djibouti for, I think, a COMESA meeting. He talked about it. And his concern is that how comes any trade that we perform between African countries, the exchange of currencies must be in dollar form. Okay. And the president is asking, why can't we trade with using our money? For example, if you are trading between Kenya and Djibouti, Kenya and Congo, which have different currencies, why don't we use our own currencies to do the trade instead of just providing a European dollar to come and ratify our operations? And he is for allowing Africans to use their own currencies in any kind of trade. And I remember this month also, he brought about this matter when it came to the issue of importing fuel in the country. And that's why they opted to go to the Middle East. You know, they have contracted 2 companies to provide fuel for our country. And they said the suppliers for fuel from European countries, one of the conditions is to use dollar, which is more expensive for our country when it comes to the exchange rate. But when they went to the Middle East suppliers, they agreed to trade using Kenyan shillings, which lowered the cost of bringing fuel in the country.
Yeah.
So it's a matter that needs to be looked at, and it has really drawn attention from few of African presidents. But the issue is, Mangicho, who is this who is bold enough to speak this matter to the world?
To the world.
You know whom you are speaking to?
Sure.
The superpowers? Who is born in Africa?
Actually, that is a question, because now the notion, or maybe to some people it is a reality, that maybe the US is a superpower.
Yeah.
And therefore there is a way in which maybe they influence the economy and maybe the financial operation of every other country. Now, and maybe this is actually a question, Kagi, that maybe in our future discussions, or maybe even in these particular programs, we might want to get or seek the expertise of some of our economists to get to find out, therefore, what is the role of a dollar, or what is the role of the dollar currency when we have a bilateral relation maybe between 2 countries. Okay, like maybe now the example that we are giving there. So maybe the president has raised an issue that maybe so many people have been having, but maybe for one reason or another they've not been in a position maybe to raise it. And now maybe this time around there will be a debate on this as to whether now the way we operate economically has a particular effect on maybe how the U.S. operates, or maybe on how the U.S. Looks at some of these issues. Maybe that is something that we'll have to give time and be able to see.
Yes. Issue number 2 he is advocating for. I was listening to him yesterday when he was in Djibouti, and I think he is bringing about some valid complaints. And this one was the issue of fair representation. And he was saying, and I love his boldness, that it's too unfortunate that our continent, which has a huge number of people in the world, is experiencing unfair representation, especially in the United Nations sittings. Okay. One of them is the United Nations Security Council. And he was asking, how comes, despite our population, despite our role in the global expansion and development in terms of raw materials and other things, that we are having a challenge of the global community to be able to involve Africa in terms of representation. And he was very categorical when he mentioned about the United Nations Security Council. That we should have an outright representation in the UN Security Council as Africa. Yeah, you see? And therefore, they are saying they are going to push it for that more and more. And he was also talking about when they go for global talks. For example, you hear about the US-African Trade Summit. You heard about China-Africa Trade Summit. And he was saying, and I think it was very a bit sensitive, that the only thing we do, we are invited as Africans to go to those meetings. We are not allowed to give our elaborate speech, to give our views, but we're only given 5 minutes whereby we just greet the delegates and sit down, and finally you are taken outside there to take a group photo. Yeah.
So this is a debate that needs actually to be looked into. Maybe it's time for Africa to arise, okay, because there is that maybe tendency, or maybe there is that tradition whereby it's like Africa is being muzzled by the West, by the European countries. But it's also important for maybe Africa now to arise and also show that it has some power, it has also some voice. It can also maybe sit in a particular meeting and be the one maybe to also maybe look at some of the issues that needs actually to be sorted, and also play maybe a key role, not necessarily just being there, waiting maybe to be shown the direction, or to be told this is where to go, this is where you will get, this is what you will get, this is how maybe you will behave. So I think our president maybe in a particular way, the most important thing maybe is now the support that he requires maybe from these other African countries, so that we can be at a level playing field. I think that is very critical.
Yeah, and I wish Museveni could be sound. You know, he is unwell.
Yes.
I wish he is sound to be able to support him.
Sure.
Anyway, tomorrow is a budget day.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kenya Kwanza government is pushing for 3.6 trillion shillings to be able to facilitate its development agenda. And it's a big test for the government, considering the situations that we are going through economically. And we are waiting to see how much the government is going to collect in terms of funding for this budget, especially when we are aware the government is very much against external borrowing. Exactly,
and of course this Kagi is also coming at a time when there has been a hot debate over the Finance Bill 2023. I think for the very first time, or maybe in a unique way, Kenyans have been very alert as far as matters to do with the finance situation in the country or the economic situation in the country is concerned. Most Kenyans are very aware. And I actually have even seen that particular story today. They are saying there is a poll that has been conducted and most Kenyans have opposed tax proposals. And of course, we've also read the reports that there is a likelihood that the government has actually been able to seize maybe some of the grant standings that it had on quite a number of those particular proposals.
Yes.
For example, there is that report that now, instead of the 3% house levy that really got a very huge backlash from most of the Kenyans, it's like now the government has decided to reduce it to 1.5. But now, this is the other part of it. For the 3%, most people are saying that it would have taken a lot of years for maybe someone to get that particular years or to get that particular house. Others are saying even up to 100 years. Now people are wondering, so what would be the implications now once that particular reduction is made from 3% to 1.5%? It will take eternity.
But the petroleum levy tax has been retained. It's going to remain from, I think, from 80, well, today is at 8%, heading to 16%, which I think is going to affect a lot of production in our country and hiking the prices of major commodities in our land. So tomorrow we will be looking forward for this matter.
Tomorrow we'll be looking, but still on that, I think there is also the other area that had also got a lot of backlash, especially from the youth in this particular digital age, where we know quite a number of our youth in the country are actually getting their income through the digital content creation. But apparently there was increase, or there was some tax that had been imposed on these.
Withholding tax.
15%.
15%.
But after the noise that most of the youth made, it's like now it has been reduced up to 5%.
Yes, 5%.
Yes. So we're waiting to see, and as you've rightly put it, maybe when it is presented today and maybe tomorrow, we'll be able to see, because now the opposition has also raised a very, very pertinent issue, and they've been adamant that in case the government, or in case the Legislative Assembly or Parliament, the House, the National Assembly passes this particular bill the way it is, then they're going to go back to the street. So we are waiting. They are of the opinion that it should not necessarily be some of the clauses are being removed, but rejecting the bill in totality. But then now, what are some of the implications of rejecting the bill as a whole? Would the government really tolerate something like that? Would the government really even contain particular action like that? Because that would maybe even mean really giving a lot of trouble to the government's intended programs as far as the economy is concerned.
Yes, and finally, anything can happen between today and tomorrow. You know, the Okiya Omtata is in court regarding to the financial bill, and I was asking myself, suppose the court rules against the implementation of the bill, what is going to happen? Let's wait and see.
That is another question, of course, to ask. Now, there is a very positive story here, Kagi, about our athletes. And one of them is Faith Kipyegon.
Oh, yes.
He's been ruling the athletics field by faith.
Yes, by far. He has really surprised the globe in terms of the athletics.
Actually, breaking 2 records in a span of 1 week. The first one being in 1,500 meters, and also just after 1 week breaking another record in 5,000 meters. And I think it was the day before yesterday she landed back to the country and to receive a heroic welcome, and the president gifted her 5 million Kenya shillings.
Yes.
And also a house worth 6 million Kenya shillings.
And she was saying that even to herself, it was a big surprise. That win was a big surprise to her. And I think the athletes are coming up again, Wangicho. There was a time we had a little bit of dead in terms of having some champions. They are coming up again. Yeah,
of course, we've also had the problem of doping, but yes. I think for a particular time now, we've not really witnessed some of these incidences. They were actually proving to be a nightmare, to be a major threat as far as our athletics sector is concerned. But I think this is a very positive story, even to see the government, because the other thing that was also a major impediment to the success of the athletics world in this particular country is because of maybe how the government takes, or even maybe how the government or maybe how the government actually treats some of our athletes, because some of them are actually doing very well, bringing a lot of or actually making the country proud, making the name of the country to be actually known internationally. But when maybe you see the kind of life that they are actually leading, you cannot actually even be interested, or you cannot actually even be excited. But I think that was a very good gesture by the president and the government yesterday to actually award. And actually the president said it categorically that moving forward, every athlete that breaks any international record, that will be the trend. And yes. I think that is very positive.
And finally, we have a new spy master in town. He was sworn in today after being ratified by Parliament yesterday. Nordin Haji is a new National Intelligence Service Director General after taking over from Philip Kameru, who was retired after being in office for several years. And we wish him well in the new role. He has been our DPP for some years, and we'll be looking forward to see how he is performing his new role. Although he was here before he came to the DPP office, he was there as Assistant NIS Director. Right. Now he is taking the role of the main man in the NIS in this country.
Concerning that particular story, I think it was just a matter of getting that particular rubber stamp. There was no way, or there are very little chances that maybe the Parliament, because even before Parliament maybe went to vet him, most people believe he had the faith of the president. I think there is just a way in which maybe Nordin Haji has the heart of the president. Now, how he will perform, how will maybe change the NIS sector, what are some of the things that maybe we'll see him do, it's just a matter of waiting and seeing, because there are those who think that maybe he didn't perform as he would have been expected when he was the Director of Public Prosecutions, especially in the recent days when we saw a lot of charges being dropped and people are wondering as to why in the first place maybe were even these people maybe implicated, or why were they even involved. Okay, why would it be that maybe they were involved in some of these very huge scandals in the country, only maybe for their cases to be actually dropped? But then, you never know. You cannot rule out the area or the place of politics even in this. But we want to believe, and we want to actually expect that maybe he's going to be competitive even in that particular role, because we know NIS is a major area in this particular country. Maybe just in some few seconds, Kage, before we take a break, I can see our guest is already in studio. Just as we had promised, we'll be looking at the International Day of the African Child. Actually, my director is telling me we take a break. We'll be coming back after this.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Jafford, 2 seconds, the step back for the win. I'm a 3. 2 seconds, the step back for the win. I'm a
3. The Pastor's Wife Fellowship, in conjunction with Mount Kenya Wailing Mothers, welcomes you all to the Wailing Prayer Feast, a 21 days of prayer and fasting conference that will commence on 11th June all through till 2nd July 2023, when we will culminate the feast. The theme of this meeting is Seeking the Lord for the Wailing, Hosea chapter 10, verse 12. The guest speakers are Mama Ada Adoyo.
You know what? When God
404. See you there.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back. You're still watching us right here on the Mid-Morning Park, right here on MBCI TV. Thank you so much for still finding time to be with us now today. Just as we had promised, we want to change the gears a little bit. I know most of the times we bring you matters especially to do with the politics, but today we want to shift gears and look at this particular critical area also, the International Day of the African Child. And of course, we'll narrow it down to our Kenyan context and try to discuss and try to find out what are some of the issues that are affecting the Kenyan child today. What are some of the strides that we've made in terms of helping the Kenyan child? What are still some of the challenges? And maybe moving forward, what is it that we need to do? Or what is it that is needed actually to ensure that the Kenyan child succeeds in all areas of their lives? And thank you so much. We have a question that we've asked you because we also want you to participate, to also join us in this particular conversation or discussion for that particular matter. And that is, what are some of the issues that are affecting the Kenyan child in the society today? What are some of the issues that are affecting the Kenyan child in the society today? Continue giving us those particular reflections on our social media platforms. Facebook, we are live on MBCI TV. YouTube, that is MBCI TV official, and also our shortcut platform 23814. Continue giving us, and of course we'll be glad to sample some of those particular opinions. Now, our guest today is a children's officer by the name Rebecca Onyango. Karibu sana, good to have you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mangicho.
Yes.
And Mr. Kagi.
Karibu sana.
I'm very grateful and honored to be here today, to be able to have this discussion on what is the International Day of the African Child.
Exactly.
And I hope at the end of it we'll have shed more light and your viewers will be able to understand why exactly we have to celebrate the African child.
Right.
Yes.
We're so glad to have you, and thank you so much also for making time to be with us. And as you've rightly put it, I know we'll have a candid discussion, and of course it will benefit most of our viewers even as we continue. And maybe just to begin, of course, later on we'll be able to find out from you what are we expecting on Friday. I believe it is on this particular Friday the 16th when we'll be marking the day. Later on we'll be able to tell us maybe what are some of the preparations, and maybe how can our viewer also participate, because maybe some or most of the time we have celebrations like these, or maybe we have we have maybe days like this only maybe to find out that maybe most of the Kenyans maybe in a particular way don't even find themselves being involved. But just maybe to give us the context or set us to the context, what do we mean, or what is the background of this International Day of the African Child?
Okay, so the genesis of marking the International Day of the African Child, in 1976 in Soweto, there were about 20,000 high school students who converged to protest. And the reason that they were protesting is that they were being forced to learn in Afrikaans, which is a minority language. Remember, this is during apartheid period. So they were protesting that they wanted the right to be taught in English, which was more acceptable and widely used as compared to Afrikaans. And this was called the Soweto Rebellion or Soweto Uprising. And in the course of this protest, the police and the army opened fire. They estimate about 600 students were killed and thousands were injured in one way or the other. In fact, when you Google Soweto uprising, the first image you will see was the first casualty of the police bullet. His name is Hector Peterson, and there's Hector Peterson's brother carrying his dead body running away from the scuffle. So the OAU at that time sat down in 1991 and they said, okay, the students were protesting right to education because the Afrikaans language was just the main issue, but then there's also issues to do with the poor infrastructure that the black schools had. And the students were pushing for why should we be discriminated against because of the color of our skin. So the OAU decided that in commemoration of those who lost their lives fighting for the rights of the rights to proper education, every year that on the 16th of June we will be celebrating International Day of the African Child. So we've been having these celebrations from 1991.
1991.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this year, 2023,
That is in Kenya, or
it has been marked, it's the entire world, yeah.
Okay,
it's an international thing, but also in Africa. We have,
sure.
every year they have to have a continental celebration. This year it's being done in Zambia. But here in Kenya, we have been celebrating Day of the African Child. And yeah, that's why we're also having it this year in Njoro. Yes.
Wow, that is great. Now coming now to our Kenyan context, what do you think have been the main issues that have been affecting the Kenyan child?
Well, as a children officer, I'm children officer Nakuru West. So as a children officer, most of the caseloads that we handle in court and even with the various partners that we work with, we have very high cases of defilement, we have very high cases of child labor, child neglect, trafficking, and then now we are getting into this digital era where we are seeing a lot more of online-based sexual exploitation and abuse of children. And that is why even this year's theme is indicative of that, because we have to be able to narrow down and focus on the emerging trends or the emerging issues, what is affecting the child right now. We have a lot of tech-savvy children. Right now, a 3-year-old understands TikTok more than we. So there are those benefits of being on that online space because we are moving into a digital environment now. In the next 10, 20 years, we are no longer going to be analog. A lot of things will be done digitally. But as we are moving and we are acknowledging there's positives in the digital space, we also have to look at some of the risks that children face when they're exposed to those digital phases. Yes.
And maybe just talking, maybe like some of the issues that you've highlighted there, talking about child defilement, talking about child labor. When you're looking at child defilement, who actually make, who are the perpetrators of this child defilement, and maybe what has it been like? Maybe making the perpetrators to actually be answerable, or actually even to be charged for these crimes and atrocities.
Okay, so with cases of defilement that we've handled, majority of those cases, children are defiled by people they know. So it will be a neighbor, it will be a family friend, and most of the times it's actually a relative. So it is somebody that you actually know who ends up being the perpetrator. Now, in most of those instances, we have some of the cases reach us, but there are those cases in those far-flung areas where maybe because of societal norms, and then there's the stigma, nobody wants to come forward and report. And in the end, who suffers? It's the child. So we have reporting mechanisms for that. And also, as DCS, we have our toll-free number 116. That's why we are always wearing these jackets everywhere we go, because it's part of creating awareness to members of public to know that if you cannot be able to reach your chief or that Nyumba Kumi representative, and you cannot get to the police station or even a healthcare facility, there's a toll-free number that you can call. You're not charged. And they can be able to direct you where you can be assisted.
And just as you said, Rebecca, that you'll find that most of the people or most of the perpetrators of this child defilement happens maybe to be people who are very close to these children, maybe some of them very close relatives.
Yes.
Therefore, it makes it maybe even very difficult, maybe for them now even actually to be exposed.
Exactly, and so most of the times you'll find the child wants to come forward and report, but the adult in that situation, being the guardian or the parent, because of family dynamics, you know, a case of defilement is very sensitive in nature, And some people look at the family dynamic and the impact that will have on the family, and they would much rather not. So you find a lot of defilement cases, they just settle at home. Unfortunately, in cases like Njoro, and this is specifically why we are choosing Njoro this year, in areas like Mau Narok and Naiswet, majority of the cases for defilement will be finalized and they'll be told, bring 2 cows or 2 goats, and that's it. But you see, this child has already been harmed. You've already affected them psychologically, not just even in the physical, but also psychologically, which will take years to be able to kind of wipe out.
Why would the family members, before I bring my colleague Kaji on this, why would maybe the family find it maybe more convenient or easier maybe to settle it locally, other than maybe allowing the law to take its course?
Well, for one, as I said, it's the family dynamics and the stigma that comes with that. And then it's that kind of like a sense of loyalty. This is our family member. So yes, we agree that you have wronged us, but we can kind of overlook it because you're family. But then in most instances also, there's an element of poverty in there, because you will find the person who has defiled is from a well-to-do family as compared to the victim. So in such instances, money is offered or livestock is offered, which they know that the family of the victim is in need of. So it's a trade-off. Yeah, they consider that a trade-off.
Okay. Maybe before I bring the issue of the child labor regarding to defilement, you know, the laws, the out-of-court settlement.
Yes.
Do we have a scenario whereby, in terms of defilement, it can be allowed to have an outside court settlement?
So with the cases that I've handled, usually it's called alternative justice system, so AJS. And with cases of defilement that I've handled, where we have teens, particularly that of 16, 17-year-old bracket, where both of them are children in this case, so they are both in need of care and protection. So you find a teenage girl and a teenage boy around the age of 16. We call it Romeo and Juliet. So in such an instance, once the parents of both sides have a common agreement on how they're going to do provision for this child who's coming in, they can be able to do diversion of that case, so that the boy is not, you don't also end up punishing. In as much as they're children, they are kind of willing participant in that act.
Yes.
They are very much in the know of the consequences of the sexual act. So if they happen to sire a child, the parents can be in agreement that as the children continue with their studies, we can be able to take care of this minor. And in such instances, then we'll have a diversion. The courts will order for a diversion, of which when they go for diversion, the children office still monitors, because we have to find out the welfare of both the mother, and in this case also the father and the child, but then they fall squarely under probation. Yeah.
Okay. Now we narrow down to the issue of child labor. An issue, yes, many Kenyans are aware of child labor, but I feel they are not well enlightened. Do you concur with me that many Kenyans are not well informed about child labor?
Yes. Yes, I concur with you wholeheartedly, because again, this is one huge challenge we have in the Mau Narok region, where we have children as young as grade 5, grade 6 dropping out of school and going into the farms to earn a living. So poverty plays a part, yes, but then once, even if you've tried to rehabilitate these children and show them importance of education and all, most of them are not willing to go back to school, because here you are, the child will tell you that I go to school and I come back and I've earned 0. But then I go into this farm and I earn 800 or 1200 in a day, right? Because the children are paid at the same rate as adults. And they even consider the children better in terms of they move faster, so they can cover much larger area as compared to the adults. And then children are also generally not very fussy. When it comes to money, they will work. So this is a huge challenge, because trying to convince this child of the importance of education, where they feel that they're earning 0. They're looking at the monetary gain as compared to 10, 15 years from now, what will this education do for me?
Once upon a time, I visited a family, and there were children who were there, and the mother was telling the children to do this and this, how it cost, and one told the mother that this is against child labor. Now, what are these common child labor we are talking about that many Kenyans are not aware of? We have talked about farming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of farming. You also find children out of school and they are selling, like hawkers. They are selling in the markets, they are selling on the streets. So that's also another form of child labor. I don't necessarily think the one in the household is considered labor unless you have willingly taken in a minor to work as a house help or a farmhand. Then maybe there we might have a bigger issue with you. But if it is you're teaching them basic skills on how to clean after themselves, I don't think I can quantify that as child labor.
I think they also take it out of context.
Exactly.
Be able to elude doing those duties.
Exactly.
But the major, as you have said, is the issue of underage doing some house help job.
House help,
and
exactly.
also
So it's
not
like,
farming, but they are called herders.
yes, exactly. So it is like they are doing very hard manual jobs that normally adults are the ones who are supposed to be doing. Then now that's where you come into conflict with the law, because this is a child who you've taken out of school, and so that means they are missing out on the education bit, but then they are working, and in some cases you'll find, yes, they're those ones who will earn, and then they're those ones who are being exploited, so they're doing it for free.
What about the scenario? The schools are closed for 1-2 months, and then they are at home, and the parents allows them to go and do some stuff to get some money, for example, in coffee plantations, and then they are being paid. Are the parents considered to be against the law?
Well, that is still child labor. That is not an internship. That's child labor. That is still child labor. In as long as it is a task that is very physically, or it's just very manual, intensive, we consider that child labor.
Yeah.
And maybe what does it do to a child? Because maybe most people would want to find out now, when maybe a child is exposed into some of this environment, how does it affect him? How does it affect the well-being of that particular child?
Well, a lot of the cases where you find the child has gone out to seek, this is like employment actually, so they've gone out to work to be able to earn a living, and just having that monopoly of finance. Imagine a child who's 5 years old and they can make 20,000 in a month. What's a 5 or a 10-year-old doing with 20,000? What are they going to invest the 20,000 in? So it opens up this avenue of where they start getting into other vices. Drug abuse and drug intake can come in. Alcoholism can come in. There's a lot of child prostitution on that side of Mount Narok as well. So much so that others don't even consider that a thing. They actually get shocked when we make noise about it. But yes, there's also that it just introduces a lot of negative vices into the child's life. And since we consider the child very vulnerable, we are supposed to be, as the adults, we are supposed to be guiding these children and not misguiding. Yeah. So in as much as, yes, they are going out there because of poverty and all that, but there's also a responsibility of the parent or the guardian to be able to fend for this child, or to be able to at least guide the child into the right path. So child labor it's a no for us, but it's something that we are still trying to combat, because it's awareness creation, but then there's still a lot of work that we have to do.
Okay, and Rebecca, now that you've said that most of these children who would actually be involved in maybe child labor apparently would not be in school.
Yes.
Is that the situation? What is the approximate maybe analysis of students or maybe children who are not in school, and knowing it very well that maybe education is a right?
Yes, exactly. Education is a right for every child. I don't have the specific statistics, but I would say maybe for Njoro Sub-County, because I worked there before I moved to West, for Njoro Sub-County, about maybe 30 or 40% of the cases that we handle every year from this region of Mount Narok entails children being out of school because of child labor and also even child defilement. A lot of the children, once they come of age, this is a very interesting paradox, because even in Naiswet, once a girl reaches that age of where she has menstruation, she's becoming a woman, most families, they say, okay, now you're fit to be married, and she'll be married off very fast. And that is the end of her education. So you will find some of the ladies coming to complain of her neglect in our offices is 25, and she has 6 children. When did she start having these children? Yeah, so they are married off as even a very young age of maybe 14, 15. As soon as you start coming into your womanhood, you're already married off, because families view the girls more of kind of like poverty eradicator, because you will be
Also
married off,
yes.
and the trade-off is the dowry. So the dowry will be able to enrich in the homestead. Yeah.
Yeah, on the same, maybe those parents who refuse to take their children to school, do you have, as a children's office, any powers over them?
Well, once it is reported to the police and it is reported to us, we take them to court. And then now we leave them in the hands of the law, for the law to be able to take. And even with these children, what we try to do as much as possible, because now with the new, not constitution, the new Children's Act 2022, you know, it addresses issues of just foster care, issues of adoption, but then, so we are trying so much to deinstitutionalize the children. We don't rush to take them to children's homes, because years of research has also showed that there's a flaw in that system. So we look how we can be able to reintegrate them with relatives who are willing to take them in, and then we look for partners who come on board and support with the education bit. If that was the challenge, the big challenge for the parents, we look for partners who can be able to come on board and be able to help. We've also had many students who've suffered that, and then they've been enrolled in bursaries, whether it is the presidential bursary or it's the area MP bursary, and they've been able to make something out of themselves after that. So in as much as, we want to bring the parents to book and hold them accountable, we also don't just let the children, suffer. We have to focus. Our primary focus is on the child. So if the issue was education, we make sure that we get somebody who's willing to partner to offer that. If the issue was maybe they need psychosocial counseling, we have counselors spread out in all our sub-counties, in the hospitals where we refer the children to, and they work with them.
Okay. Suppose there are children who have been, let me say their rights have been violated in terms of maybe child labor or other rights. How do they maybe get attended to in terms of when they come to your office?
Okay, so by the time the child is getting to our office, this matter has already been reported to the police, and there's an OB to it. Once they get to our office, we do a short interview with the child, and sometimes if they're accompanied in the company of a parent or a guardian, we also interview the parent and guardian. Then we do something called a children officer report. So the police, once they do the OB, they will open a PNC, a protection and care file, in court. As a children officer, once I get to court and the PNC is there, I will put my report in, and in the report I make recommendations. So based on each and every specific context, what is my recommendation for the best interest of that child? And once we make the recommendation with the magistrate, if it is to put the child in a rescue center, maybe the home is hostile, for temporarily until the home situation is sorted, then we can do that. If it is, like I said, to get a partner who can be able to support whatever gaps are missing in there, we also do that. But then if it is completely and totally removing the child from that situation, placing maybe in a children's home for some time, we also do the committals for them.
All right.
And maybe what is the role of the children's office in regards maybe to the rising number of street children?
Well, that is a big issue for Nakuru East and West area. So I think it was less than a month ago, there was a commissioning of Mama Street. She's one of those ladies who's really worked with the street kids. But with regards to street children, we also have partners who work with them, Mama Street being one of them. And what we do is they'll get the information of this child. And as a children office, we don't just work as a silo. So we are down there till the grassroots. We work with until the Mzee wa Kijiji down there. So we try do tracing of the family, and then once we are able to trace the family members of these children, we can be able to bring them on board. We do an interview, first of all, just to ascertain that they even know each other, they've bonded. If the child
how
is
is
really
it like, how is it like tracing their family?
So
Is it that you
with
find
tracing
them
of
in
the
streets,
family,
you ask them where they're coming from?
yeah, usually they will get the details of the child, and they'll also take a photo of the child, and then they will share it with us. So we will share with our networks. If the child says, for example, they come from Likia region, I have all the chiefs, the OCS of Likia on a WhatsApp forum. So what I will do is I will share the details that the child has given, name of the father, name of the mother, school they last attended, name of siblings and ages of siblings, what schools they attended. It's a very extensive list. And then they will help us with the tracing. So even as per the chiefs, they will cascade that down to the Nyumba Kumi leaders or elders, right? And if we can be able to trace the family of the child, well and good. If not, we open up the networks to the entire Njoro. If we do not find the entire Njoro, I share it with my fellow officers
So
around the country.
tracing the family means once you get the family, you return the child?
No, we don't just immediately return. So we'll have the family members come on board. We have a discussion with them and together with the child, because we have to also be sure that the child
What would be
knows
some
them.
of the major reasons as to why this child in the first place came out of their
Exactly.
home?
So that is what we also want to address. If the child has told us that they left, sometimes also the children might come and give you misinformation. So they might say they ran away from home because of poverty, but in actual sense they had actually committed a crime and maybe we didn't know. So all this will be brought to forward. That's why we have to bring the family members and the child and have that discussion. Once we are clear on what the reasons were for the child to leave, then we will request if it is okay for them to take the child. If the home environment is still hostile, we will place this child temporarily. Now we are moving into a system of foster care, so the child can also be opened up for foster care. The end game is to make sure that the child is being brought up in a home environment and not an institution, so that they grow up holistically, where they understand the dynamics of family relations. Yeah. So that is what is most important, at least to be able to make a more balanced child out of them.
Okay, we want to join our reporter, that is Vincent Kimtai. He always gets into the streets when you're doing this particular program to also get some of the views, some of the opinions from Kenyans on the topic of discussion. And today, of course, Vincent Kimtai is also in the streets getting to ask Kenyans what are maybe some of the issues, some of the challenges that are affecting the African child. But I'm being told that particular report is still being prepared, so once it is ready, we'll get to know it. But still on the street children, Rebecca, so what major challenges do you face? Because now it's been quite a very long time, and maybe even most of the Kenyans are asking, are we going to wake up one day and find no street child in our streets?
It is my hope and prayer that, yes, one day we will wake up and we don't have any street children. Yes, I agree that it's been quite a menace for years. And as I said, there have been steps that have, they might look minor, but there have been steps being taken to be able to kind of like alleviate this menace. The hugest problem is that misinformation that we get, because sometimes you can be set on a wild goose chase. And you're trying to trace a child who says they come from Kakamega, but in actual sense they're coming from a different region. So that has been our biggest challenge. But that notwithstanding, we're still pushing on. We're still trying to ensure that, and even as we are trying to mitigate that issue, they have those centers where these children can be able to go in. They are rehabilitated. They're trained on skills. They actually even graduate. So that by the time even we are tracing your family, even if it's 2-3 years down the line, it cannot be 2-3 years of you doing nothing. You have to at least have gained something. So when they leave those centers, they come out when they are fully trained, they can be able to have something as a tool of trade, a trade-off, yeah.
So if those who are in the streets today were to come to your office, are they guaranteed they'll not go back to the streets?
Wow. It's an interesting question. Well, let's say yes, we will do our level best to ensure that they don't go back. So we will put them in those centers where they can we start the process of rehabilitation. Most of them even end up going back to school, because you understand, maybe they would say that it's poverty that took them out of the context they were in. Maybe they were involved in child labor instead of going to school, and now they know the importance of school, so they're taken back to school. As I said, also those ones who feel like I'm too old to be going back to primary school and I'm 17, they can be put through skills training, so that by the time they're 18, you have a diploma in something. You can come out, go and look for an employment opportunity, and you can be able to make a living for yourself. So we are very big on that, rehabilitating them.
And of course, there have also been those allegations of and those accusations that some of those street children have been harassed, they've been persecuted when they're in those that kind of an environment.
On the streets?
Yes.
Unfortunately, some of them also find themselves in the line of crime. So, you know, once you commit a crime, then you have to face the law. But yes, there have been allegations of some of them being harassed by police, or in one way or the other, they feel like they've been persecuted. And we also handle such kind of cases as well, because they have to be reported to us. In as long as you're under 18, you still fall under our docket as a child, right? So as a children officer, I would also be able to mitigate those. But then there are also those who have brought in that criminal angle of what you call petty crime of stealing. And once they are caught by the police, then they're taken through the court system. And once they get there, also as a children officer, as I said, we do a recommendation. So part of the recommendation would be, let us do a diversion of this, let us work together with probation, let us see how we can be able to rehabilitate this child, because it's more often than not, it's not really a wise choice. It was, they were pushed because of circumstances, not so much that they just woke up and decided, I'm going to become a thief. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the issues that I've seen is really being categorized by the UN agency regarding to children is the issue of recruiting children as soldiers, which is not common in Kenya.
Okay.
But now we have a new challenge whereby we're experiencing some illegal groups in the country. And if you check around, you see some of the people who are involved are the underage. Are you experiencing some reports regarding to recruiting some minor in the illegal groups, and what are you doing about it?
Actually, for Nakuru West, I think it was a week ago, they had over 200 minors being arraigned in court for the confirm when they were doing the cleanup.
Yeah.
So yes, we have those reports of minors, and we also have to be able to come in, be able to interview, as I said. So part of we interview so that we can find where the families of these children, and then we understand what is the dynamics at home that will push a child to, because it's not so much even poverty. Some of them you'll find they are very comfortable at home. It's just they have fallen into the wrong groups.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like peer pressure. And unfortunately, these gangs also offer very lucrative amounts for those who are willing to come on board. So it's a challenge that we are facing, but we are also trying to put measures in place. We visit schools as much as we can and have this discussion around drug abuse, prostitution, joining of these gangs, because a lot of the radicalization of joining these gangs happens online. They don't do barazas, open barazas where they're recruited. They are conscripted from online platforms. Yeah. So it's for us to be able to work together with the parents, because this child did not access that internet, you know, from thin air. They access this at home, or if it's not at home, there's a station somewhere where they were able to access this, where they befriended maybe a gang leader, and then they were brought on board with a promise of a very lucrative future. So yes, we handle such cases. It's a process. It's an ongoing process.
But in such a scenario, who is punished there?
Well, as I said, because there's that element of criminality, there are those where you can argue with the courts and request for leniency. Let us do diversion, because maybe we're going to take the child through route Z, and on this route Z, they are going to be rehabilitated, reintegrated back with the society or with the family. The society is welcoming of the child. So those are the factors we look in. But then where it is like, it's a crime, like it's a criminal offense. For example, where there's murder that has been involved, or something like even defilement that has been involved, like violent defilement, that one they just have to face the full force of the law, of which there will be, once they are sentenced, they'll be taken to Boston. Boston is the holding facility. It's like the prison for children. And even when they go there, they are still going through the same process of rehabilitation, skills training. Most of them go back to school. So it's not, all is not lost. It's just that we are trying to redirect those ones who have lost the plot. We're trying to bring them back to the right side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's now get our reporter Vincent Kimtai. My director is signaling me that Vincent Kimtai is now ready to take us to the streets, or what Kenyans are also saying about this particular discussion. Vincent Kimtai, take it away for us.
Shukran sana Mangicho Mola pamoja na Paul Kagi. Na leo mahala hapa nitakuwa nikizungumza na Wakenya kuwashirikisha katika maadhimisho ya siku ya mtoto wa Afrika itakayokuwa ikiadhimishwa siku ya Ijumaa tarehe 12 mwezi wa Juni. Siku hii inalenga kutoa hamasisho au kutoa elimu kwa Wakenya kuhusiana na haki, jinsi ya kutunza haki za watoto wa Kiafrika kama ilivyoainishwa katika mkataba wa Umoja wa Afrika wa haki na ustawi. Na hivi hapa leo nitakuwa nikizungumza na Wakenya kutaka kufahamu je, mapendekezo yao ni yapi kuhusiana na vile ambavyo wanataka haki za mtoto wa Afrika kaweze kulindwa pamoja na kuboreshwa hata zaidi, ikizingatiwa kuwa mtoto wa Afrika amekuwa akipitia changamoto siaba, ikiwemo matumizi ya dawa za kulevya, pombe haramu pamoja na mimba ya mapema, haya yote yakichangia katika mtoto wa Afrika kukatiza masomo yake.
Tunafaa kama wazazi wao tuwafundishe kwenda kwa kanisa, wenye wanaenda kwa kanisa wafunzwe kulingana na yale maadili ambayo itafanya mtoto asiende na njia ambayo hata kuwa amepotoka. Na sana sana kuna wengine nao wanakuanga na kuna wenye na baka watoto. Kwa pande ya serikali kama watu kama wale, mimi naweza omba serikali iwachukulie hatua kali. Na kama mtu amechukuliwa hatua kali, kama pengine amefikishwa kwa station, askari wanahakikisha kwamba ule mtu lazima atachukua hatua nayo inaofaa kulingana matendo yenye amefanya. Juu kitu yenye inafanya mambo kama hayo yafanyike ni kuona mzazi amechukua hatua, ameshika hiyo mtu na amepelekwa station, lakini unakuta ametoka na njia yenye haieleweki. Kwa hivyo kama mtu ameshikwa, ni vizuri serikali inafuatilia mpaka hiyo mtu amefikishwa mahakamani na amechukua hatua inayofaa kwa pande ya serikali. Nao wazazi, kuna wazazi wengine, kuna wenye wanafanyanga watoto wakiwa wachanga, unakuta haifai kwa sababu ni kuhujumu haki za mtoto. Mzazi yuko kama huyo anafaa kuchukua hatua na apelekwe hata yeye mahakamani, na bado hiyo mtoto awekewe security, kwa sababu anaweza peleka mzazi kotini, iwe sasa imekuwa kama ni kizazi. Kwa hivyo mambo kama serikali inafaa kujua venye itachukua hatua.
Most of the parents, they are not creating time with their children, and that's why unapata watoto ya kwamba unakuta wakijipata katika ile hali wamejipata, unakuta wanaenda mtaani. Kuna wale wazazi ambao hawana time kabisa ya watoto wao, ndio maana unakuta watoto wanajieka katika kwa madawa ya kulevya, unakuta watoto wanajiuza, yani katika kufanya kazi ya ukahaba. Sometimes ndio unakuta ya kwamba pia wakati mtoto anataka kukuambia kitu, wewe you're not there to listen to that child, na ndio unakuta mtoto ametoweka, na wewe you are the one to be blamed here, kwa sababu wakati ulitaka mtoto akusikize, wewe hukuchukua hiyo time mtoto akusikize.
Iko jambo ambalo ilikuja right ya watoto. Inafika mahali ambapo unakuta hata ukitaka kudiscipline mtoto, unakuta ya kwamba unaona kama iko watu ambao utachukuliwa. Juu ukiangalia watoto wa siku hizi si kama wale, si kama ile wakati wetu. Juu wakati wetu ungepata ya kwamba ukikosa, utakuta mzazi mwingine ambaye hata si mzazi wako atakupatia discipline. Na ukifika kwa mzazi pia atakuuliza kile ambao umefanya. Na kikutu umefanya hiyo kwa ukweli, yeye pia atakudiscipline. Na unakuta hiyo siku hizi hayuko, ndio maana sasa watoto wa siku hizi hawaoni wazazi wengine ambao watu ambao wamekuwa wakubwa kama ni wazazi wao. Tena hata wanapofanya kitu, wanaona ya kwamba hata anapofanya hakuna kile chochote ambacho atafanyiwa. Ndio wanasema kuna right zake. Na ukweli ukiangalia utakuta ya kwamba huyo mtoto akisimama naye akikupeleka mbele, utakuta kwamba atasema ya kwamba wewe umevunja sheria zake, umevunja right zake. Ndio maana natuma wakati unakuta ya kwamba kuweka mtoto laini na kuwa iko shida. Na ndio maana wanafanya tu vitu, wanajua hata nikifanya hakuna mahali penye mzazi atanipeleka. Hata nikifanya hii hakuna mahali ambapo mama atanipeleka. Ni kwa sababu gani? Tumeacha ile ujukumu ya kitambo na serikali katuingiza box. Wakatuambia kwamba mtoto ako na right zake. Na hapo kwa right zake nitatuma kufanyia mzazi paka ile kitu ambao wewe mwenyewe ukiangalia utaona kwamba pana hii kitu haiendi vizuri. Nukitoka ili uweze kutengeneza hiyo maneno ama uweze kumweka kwa line, utakuta ya kwamba atakuchukulia hatua. Na ndio maana nafika mahali pe unakuta mtoto bado ni under 18, unakuta mama ambaye ameingia anafanya tu kwa sababu anajua hakuna kitu, atakumuna tu ambao mzazi atamchukulia. Mzazi akimchukulia akona rights zake ambayo inamfavor. Unaona kitu kama hiyo. Na kwa sababu siku unaona mtoto anabadilika, baadaye unakuta kwamba mtoto amefikia kiwango ambao anafanya nini? Anajinyonga. Ni kwa sababu gani? Atukai na watoto na tusemezane nao. Nikifika mahali ambapo tunaweza kutukawa discipline, unakuta ya kwamba mtoto kunaye jinsi ambayo atareact. Na venye atareact akikupeleka mbele, wewe tena utachukuliwa hatua. Hiyo ndio shida ambayo nami naona katika wakati huu, ambayo inatuma ya kwamba watoto wanalelewa jinsi ambao wao wenyewe wanataka.
ningeomba serikali, kuna watoto huku mitaani wanaweza kuwa watoto wazuri sana hata kwa serikali. Serikali ichukue hawa watoto, wapeleke pahali kwa children's home, alafu wafuatilie masomo yao, waweze kuwasomesha. As African girls, tunafaa kuwa na future nzuri sana. Kama wazazi wametuelekeza vizuri, pia tunaweza naona hata ministers wanawake ambao wanafanya vizuri sana pale katika serikali. So hata hawa watoto wanapotelea mitaani, haswa kwa mtoto wa msichana. Ni vizuri kama serikali na wale wako na uwezo, tuchukue hawa watoto, tuweze kuwapeleka shuleni, tuwapatie chakula, tuwapatie mavazi. Juzi nimeona mtoto wa msichana ni mrembo, lakini mavazi yenye anavaa hata inaweza kuta imemwekea kwa temptation ya kurepiwa na wanaume huko nje. So the moment tutawachukua na tuwapeleke shuleni, well and good.
Kwa maoni yangu, ile kitu naona watoto wanapotea kwanza ni exposure ya TV na social media. Hiyo kwanza inachangia sana kwa sababu mtoto pengine hana mtu ya kumwangalia nyumbani, hakuna mtu anachunga anaangalia nini kwa social media. Hiyo inachangia sana. Najua mtoto wa zile zakati zetu, mtoto alikuwa anaangaliwa na jamii yote. Lakini sasa unajikuta mtoto, kwa sababu wazazi wako very busy, mtoto ana shida peke yake. Hakuna mtu ana supervise, hakuna mtu anamwangalia, hakuna mtu anafanya nini. Kwa hivyo atakuta watu wengine wana influence vibaya, vitu kama hiyo. Kanisa can play a very big part kwa kurudisha watoto laini. Lakini that's from there, najua sasa lazima na sisi tukiwa wazazi tupeleke watoto kwa kanisani. Na tuwe at least hata sisi we are leading by example. Unaona? Ukiona mtoto anafanya vibaya, at least jaribu kumuonyesha njia. Hata kama sometimes haikuangi rahisi, tujaribu kumuonyesha njia.
Mtoto amemaliza form 4. Mzazi amekosa pesa ya kumpeleka mbele. Naona mzazi sasa atabidi akae nyumbani. Akiacha nyumbani mzazi aende kutafuta, si atafanya mambo ambayo haistahili na atakuwa na mafikirio mingi ya ambayo haifai. Lakini kama kungekuwa na, tuseme for example, kuwe na shule ya serikali, mtoto akimaliza form 4 anaingia kwa college fulani yenye itagharimiwa na serikali, hawezi enda kutembea ama kufikiria mambo ya video ile ambaye kuangalia kama video ile mambo ambayo haistahili.
Kitu ya kwanza, haki inaanza na mzazi. Mzazi kwanza niye kielelezo mzuri ya mtoto yake. Ikiwa umeacha mtoto kwa nyumba na jioni ukirejea kutoka kazini, usingatii mtoto yako ameshinda aje. Ni vizuri hata serikali itenge kiwango fulani cha mtu ako chini kabisa. Watu wote hafanani. Kuna mtu ako na uwezo, kuna mwingine hana uwezo. Unaona mtoto amefukuzwa shule na amekuta mzazi hata chakula hana. Ndio sababu unaona sasa watoto wengi wameingilia kwa miandarati.
Mangicho pamoja na Paul Kagi, hayo ni maoni ya Wakenya kuelekea maadhimisho ya siku ya mtoto wa Kiafrika siku ya Ijumaa tarehe 12 wiki hii. Na humu nchini watoto wengi wa Kiafrika wamekuwa wakipitia changamoto, ikiwemo kukosekana kwa huduma bora, ya watoto wao, ambapo vile watoto wasichana wamekuwa wakipachikwa mimba za mapema, watoto wavulana wakijihusisha na madawa za kulevya na unywaji wa pombe, hali ambayo imepelekea hao wote kukatiza masomo yao. Lakini haya yote na mengine mengi atakuwa akizungumziwa siku ya Ijumaa wakati wa maadhimisho ya siku ya mtoto wa Kiafrika itakayofanyika tarehe 12 siku ya Ijumaa wiki hii. Nikiripotia kipindi cha Mid Morning Park, jina langu ni Vincent Kimutai.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter there, Vincent Kimutai. Quite an elaborate discussion there with the Kenyans, getting the opinions of Wananchi on what they also think about the International Day of the African Child, and basically looking at maybe what are some of the challenges, what are some of the issues that are actually bedeviling the Kenyan child, even as we look forward to mark this particular day on Friday the 16th. Maybe just because I want us also to get into this particular area of the online matter, the online issue, Rebecca, and maybe what can be done, because it also means that it also looks like this is also a very, very major challenge. But there is one of the people who are interviewed, and they are talking at the issue of discipline vis-a-vis the right of the child. What do you make of this? Children want to be disciplined, but at the same time, people fear we might discipline them and find ourselves having violated their right. Is there a very thin line?
I think, okay, it might appear like there's a very thin line, but by the time you're afraid that you're violating the right of the child, it means your level of discipline has inflicted like major physical or even emotional harm on the child. So I think in the same respect, if it was done to you as an adult, would you be accepting of it? So I think parents also need to redefine discipline, because I know when we were growing up, yes, like the gentleman explained, you are a child of the community. So if you did something wrong from the point of where you had erred, you will be disciplined by that parent as you come down all the way to your parents.
Right.
And we viewed that as okay. So
now things have changed.
And now things have changed. Because now we have children who are more, very much aware of their rights, and they're very vocal about it. I don't think if you were to punish, I hear now they say naughty corner, go and sit in the corner and think about what you've done. I wish that would have happened when we were growing up. But there's different, even in terms of discipline, we've kind of like morphed into more softer ways, diplomatic ways of handling the discipline issue. So I think as a parent, you should not be afraid of like the need to discipline your child, because you're trying to train your child in the right path. But if your level of discipline is going to break an arm or a leg, then now that one you're violating the right of the child, and of which the law will now come in full swing. Yeah. Okay.
Now coming to the issue of the online nightmare, the exposure to social media, the exposure maybe to the social media gadgets. We're talking about phones, we're talking about all these other instruments. Now, do we really have any laws that maybe would look into this particular issue? And even as you look at this, at what particular point, therefore, do you think maybe there needs maybe to some policies maybe being made, maybe to caution children against the effect of the online?
Okay, so yes, this online, it's a huge thing. Actually, that is what defines the theme this year. And the AU, under the committee that handles these matters of the children's rights, it's called the Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Children, CRWC. So they came up with this OXEA. OXEA is basically online child sexual exploitation and abuse. So this online nightmare falls squarely under that OXEA, because here we are talking about issues to do with grooming. Grooming basically is having your child opening a profile on maybe Facebook or Snapchat, one of these chat forums, and having an adult masquerading with a pseudo, masquerading as a child, befriending this child with the intention of either exploiting the child sexually or even financially. And with this grooming comes issues of, like I said, where you have children joining gangs. We have the element of drug abuse. We have the element even of child prostitution and child pornography that comes from just this one element called grooming. Then you have also other things like child trafficking that can also come from this element. It's a huge nightmare. We have it's called the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act, number 5 of 2018, where there's an entire section, section 24, that talks on child pornography in depth. So the government already is aware and is doing something about it. Kenya is one of the 3 states under the AU that have been submitting reports on the progress that we are making with regards to not just access to internet, because the plan is by 2040 to have 100% internet connectivity for the entire continent. But Kenya right now, we are not doing so badly. We are at about slightly over 50%. So we still have some ground to cover. But in terms of access to internet and internet connectivity, we are not doing so badly.
And maybe also, do we squarely blame the parents on this? Because someone would want to ask, where do these children access these gadgets?
I don't say we blame the parents. I just feel like we need to hold the parents more accountable, because it always starts from the home. If we don't get it, we don't get the foundation right, we cannot start blaming the school, blaming the church, because where do these children access this internet from? Does your child walk all the way to church to chat with someone on Facebook? No. Do they walk to the police station or the health center? No. So if the parents can be able to monitor, like seriously monitor, the gadgets that they are in the hands of their children and what content these children are actually going through. Because, as I said, it's a very thin line between a child befriending someone and then finding themselves trafficked or finding themselves as a drug.
But of course, even as I got you, there are some parents who would also argue that there is a way maybe in which some of this technology would also be beneficial to the children, maybe even in terms of maybe imparting some knowledge into them. So do they really have a way in which they can moderate?
Well, now with the new innovations, we have even apps that you can be able to monitor what websites your child visits. I do that every single day. I have very tech-savvy children. My 3-year-old knows TikTok, and I don't know TikTok. So there's a way that you can be able to monitor the pages that your children goes through. And then there's also other apps that you can put in which bar the children from visiting certain websites. So I have that on my computer at home, just to ensure that my children are not accessing material that is not appropriate for their age. Yes. And even with the ones that they do access, most of the times I'm always there. I watch. So like I said, it starts from home, because you have to be very vigilant. You could dismiss it as it looks like a child-friendly app. And then little do you know, maybe this app is now doing challenges, telling children, stab yourself, do this. Because I've come across certain apps as such. And you're like, what's going on? Because how they package it, or how the general outlook of the app, it doesn't look like it can cause any harm. So it's just for you to be 100% sure that if your child is watching Peppa Pig on YouTube Kids, you are very much aware of what the content of Peppa Pig is as a parent. Not that you sit there through it all, but you're secure that even when you're not there, your children are accessing age appropriate.
Should be ahead of the child.
So the parents should be at the forefront. And then if the parents are able to secure that, I highly doubt that the children will now start looking at the avenues of exploiting or finding areas to be exploited in school, in the churches, or even in whatever other centers that they visit. So I believe the parents are and you know, parents, we are the mirror through which our children view society. So if we have this kind of like a laissez-faire attitude, we say we are busy. I'm out there, I'm looking, I'm trying to provide for the family. You're always busy. You, as a parent, you must always make time for those people, the people that you love, especially your children. You have them for a very short time. So maximize on that short time that you have them there.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that you meet as a forum in our country regarding to the rights of children to discuss various issues. And I was thinking about the issue of the child prostitution. Can you create for us a picture of how the situation is in our country?
Wow. Okay, so I don't have the figures with regards to the entire country. So I'm going to give the context of Njoro, because that was my station before. So as the cases of defilement in Njoro from Mau Narok region is about like 50-60% of the cases that we handle, the caseload that we handle there. And out of that 50-60%, about 40% of them is children who found themselves in prostitution. Maybe due to poverty, but then also because of that peer pressure, and then also absenteeism in parents. Most of the parents from that side of Njoro are usually farmers, so they leave very early in the morning, they come very late in the evening. And you have children raising children. So you have like maybe the elder who's 9 has been told to take care of, get the others ready. The mother will leave, or the father will leave, and they've left the food there, but then you have to you're left responsible to handle your siblings when you yourself you're a child. Now, if you have neighbors who are predators, they know the innings and outings of the parents in that home. This opens up these children to exploitation because a 9-year-old, 10-year-old child, what can she tell a 26 or even a 30-something-year-old man?
Yeah.
You know? So a child will come, and most of the time you'll find the things that they use to lure, the tools of trade in this prostitution. It's things that you'll be very shocked, like lollipops, sweets, chips for 50 bob.
Mandazi.
Mandazi, exactly. You know? So things that people, like adults will know, to us it may look like, oh my God, that is very cheap. But then to that child, maybe that they have not had mandazi in a whole week. That is everything. So, yeah.
Let's check on the other side of the coin, the issue of the commercial sex. Now, away from the prostitution, have you experienced some cases whereby there are some minors who are involved in commercial sex?
Willingly, because commercial, that means they have willingly gone into
Either
prostitution. For the context of Njoro, I have not. More often than not, it's the child has found themselves in that trade, and it's usually unwillingly.
Okay.
I have not handled any case where a child has willingly gone into prostitution, but usually even the cases that we handle, when they tell you of the stories, there was one that we had to actually take to Kirigiti. Kirigiti is a rehabilitation school for girls. And because she needed extensive rehabilitation, and we saw the need to take her there because if we returned her back to Mau, the ground was already the community was very hostile, considering the number of men she had purported to have slept with. And then also there was the fact that when she went back there, because it's a society where drinking, drug abuse is very rampant, so she would most likely slide into that, and then school was almost like non-existent for her, and she really wanted to work on her education. She had to drop out of school in class 3, right? And she's 15 now.
Wow.
So you see, she's trying to catch up for those many years that she has been out of school, and she has been forced into child prostitution. So we had to remove her from that context and take her for extensive rehab. Because at Kirigiti, it's extensive rehabilitation, but then you also continue with school. If you don't want to continue with school, there is the skills training. So if she wants to be a hairdresser, they have people who can be able to accord her that training. And then once she turns 18, once she's out when she's 18, she's good to go. She can have something as a tool of trade.
Right.
Good. So, Rebecca, just as we come to the conclusion of this particular discussion, so the D-Day is on Friday. So what are some of the key highlights that we are expecting?
So, okay. So the celebrations are going to be held in Njoro. There's a DCC ground. So we have the DCC complex where our offices are, and there's a ground just adjacent to it. That's where we're going to have the celebration. We're going to have a short procession from the county offices all the way to the grounds. We have a lot of invited guests. We're expecting about 300 or 350 students at the venue. Every school that is coming has a presentation around this theme.
Right.
Like I said, the children were very excited about this because this is something that it's very much centers home with them, because a lot of them are on the mtandao. They understand the challenges they are facing. So we have about 300, 350 students coming in, mostly from Njoro region, but then also from Nakuru East and Nakuru West. We have invited guests. I believe the deputy governor is going to be there. He's a former teacher, so he's very passionate about matters to do with children. We have a lot of our partners who have come on board and have helped us during this entire process. So we expect a lot of presentations from the children, be it poems, be it dance, be it songs, and less speeches. Yeah, we were told.
And from these highlights, maybe moving forward, so how do you expect now maybe to see, or maybe what are some of the changes that maybe we expect now to see in the way maybe we look and maybe the way we treat the Kenyan child?
Okay, so this celebration,
even in relation maybe to the theme.
Yeah. So with this celebration this year, we are very big on that advocacy and getting that word out there. I plan on, even after the celebrations, we want to visit a lot of schools to continue with their awareness creation, because now after Day of the African Child, that will not be the last day children will be on the internet. They will continue to be on the internet. Yes. So there is more advocacy work to be done. I believe even as the government, they're also putting in measures to be like more stringent measures to be able to try and mitigate the threats that children face when they're on this online space. I saw this very interesting video where they were talking about even as a child, if I receive material on my phone that's of a pornographic matter and I forward it to someone else, I'm also supposed to be charged because you're participating in that, what we are trying to undo.
Not the child being
yes, the one who is forwarding the message to another child, or even if you're forwarding it to another social media platform. So there's a lot of advocacy work that needs to be done. For the reason why we picked Njoro, okay, it's a fairly new station, opened in August of 2019, and this is the first of its kind to ever have these celebrations in Njoro. We really lobbied for it this year, so we are very grateful for that. And then there's also a very huge need to be able to sensitize, particularly those far-flung areas where children don't necessarily still understand their rights. Actually, I don't even believe they know that they have rights. Yeah. So we need to be able to also sensitize them, make them aware of their rights, and also make them more aware of the threats that children can come in when they are in the digital space, so that they know how to be able to circumvent certain vices. Yeah.
And this basically seems it requires the kind of multi-sectoral approach, whereby different stakeholders really need maybe to put their hand into it. How ready are they?
Very ready, I can say. Because as I said, we don't work as a silo. With DCS, we work with so many people. I told you from the grassroots, like even the Mzee wa Kijiji we work with. But then we also work with the judiciary, we work with the police. We have other partners who have come on board, like the one I was telling you, Mama Street. So you see, we are trying to see where the gaps are, and then we see if we cannot be able to come in as DCS, is there a partner who's willing to fill that gap and work with us so that we synergize this. At the end of the day, it's the best interest of the child. So we don't want to drop the ball on the African child. We want to create a very empowered, a very tech-savvy, yes, but we also want to have a very empowered African child, one who understands their rights, one who understands what risks they can face within whatever context it is and how they can circumvent that.
Wow. Rebecca Onyango, Children's Officer, Nakuru West, thank you so much. We really want to appreciate you for making time to be with us and also helping us to really understand the insights as far as the International Day of the African Child is concerned.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mangicho and Mr. Kage. I appreciate.
Thank you so much. And of course, that is where we bring it to a conclusion for today. Thank you so much also for making time to be with us in this particular show. My name is Mangicho Mola. Until we do it again next week at a time like this, enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Right, I want to thank you also for finding time to follow us in today's program, The Mid-Morning Park. My name is Paul Kagi. I wish you a very blessed day ahead.